forces are losing territory in the east of the country. They're running out of soldiers and they don't have enough weapons. For the first time, he has said if offered NATO membership, the fighting will stop and Russia will hold the territory they currently possess until diplomacy gets it back.
Ніхто не пропонував нам бути в НАТО.
No one has offered us to be in NATO with just one part or another part of Ukraine.
Закінчити гарячу стадію.
That's for once.
Факт.
The fact is that it is a solution to stop the hot stage of the war, because we can just give the NATO membership to the part of Ukraine that is under our control.
Факт. Можна було, ніхто не пропонував.
Yes, it could be possible, but no one offered.
Треба робити.
But the invitation must be given to Ukraine within its internationally recognized border.
Ви не можете давати тільки частині.
You can't give invitation to just one part of a country. Why? Because thus you would recognize that Ukraine is only that territory of Ukraine and the other one is Russia.
Я і сказав, юридично.
So legally, by law, we have no right to recognize the occupied territory as territory of Russia.
In a wide-ranging interview, he said the survival of his people was more important than the land.
I'm afraid to lose our people because the people are the most important, because everything is this war for independence of the people, not of the land, of the people, because people, it's really a nation. A nation has land and etc. and etc. The land is very important. It's a part of your, this of identity, but the people are the most important.
In the interview, he acknowledged that the future President Trump was key to everything and could decide Ukraine's fate.
So, we have to work with the new president and we have to work with America first of all, with the United States, the biggest donator, the biggest supporter. Yeah, so for us it's very important. Of course, for us it's very important bipartisan support, Republicans and Democrats. We don't want to lose Democrats or Republicans. We have a lot of voices from both parties which are on our side, and I'm thankful to them very much. And of course we will work with Trump. I want to work with him directly because there are different voices from people around him, and that's why we need not to give anybody around to destroy our communication.
Have you spoken to him yet?
No, we've spoken with him about, basically in September when I was in New York, we had conversation. It was very warm, good, constructive, but it was mostly basically not with the very, small details, but with Putin, you can't be, without details. It's important, but it was very good meeting, and it was important first step. Now we have to prepare some meetings. I don't know how many we will have, but until we will have the real plan where Ukraine is strong.
President Putin will condemn any NATO invitation to Ukraine. The point is, how many NATO members, if any, would actually offer membership to Ukraine? It is, of course, unknown. Stuart Ramsey, Sky News, Kyiv.
Flames rose over Paris as an icon of faith and French history was reduced to ash. The fire engulfed Notre Dame, destroying its spire and much of its wooden roof. But fast forward 5 years and it's a very different picture. Today, the world gets its first glimpse inside the cathedral's rebirth. French President Emmanuel Macron was one of the first people to step inside, hearing from the team behind the restoration, who used both modern tools and historic techniques. Emmanuel Macron praised the workers for achieving what he called the impossible, calling their efforts a remedy for the national wound caused by the fire. The remarkable feat was made possible by £582 million in funding from donations and government support, and of course the expertise of hundreds of artisans. The exact cause of the fire was never confirmed, though authorities believe it was likely an accident, either a cigarette or an electrical fault. Before the fire, Notre Dame attracted around 12 million visitors each year. With its grand reopening next Sunday, that number is set to soar. Visitors will once again be able to marvel at its soaring ceilings and delicate stained glass, but this time they'll need to book in advance to secure their spot. From the ashes of destruction to a symbol of resilience, Notre Dame is back and more breathtaking than ever. The tower
have closed in Ireland's general election. The incumbent Taoiseach is fighting for his political reign under pressure from the Nationalist Party, Sinn Fein, led by Mary Lou McDonald. The results of the exit poll shows that Sinn Fein and Fine Gael are almost level, with Fianna Fáil just behind. Let's go straight to our senior Ireland correspondent David Blevins in Dublin and Stephen Murphy, our Ireland correspondent in Greystones on the East Coast. David, to you first of all, your response to those exit polls.
Yes, astonishing figures, quite frankly. Sinn Féin on 21.1% at the top of the pile. Fine Gael, led by Simon Harris, the current Taoiseach, just behind on 21%. And Fianna Fáil, the party led by Ireland's current Foreign Minister, Micheál Martin, on 19.5%. What this means is that for the second consecutive general election, there is less than 2 percentage points dividing the three largest parties in Ireland, and it's going to be difficult enough for them to form the next coalition government. Remember that it's not about who wins the popular vote here, it's about who is best positioned to form the next government. Ireland has been governed by coalitions since the 1980s. Now, this was an Ipsos exit poll conducted of 5,000 people in 250 polling stations. It was incredibly accurate last time around, and if it's accurate again this time, it's been an incredibly good day for the Sinn Féin leader, Mary Lou McDonald. The party had been virtually written off at the beginning of the election campaign because it had plummeted in the polls. It's also been quite a good day for Simon Harris, who hasn't had the best campaign, the current Taoiseach. But right now, on the basis of these figures, I think it is fair to speculate that we are likely to see a return of Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil to coalition government in Ireland. But if Sinn Féin has won the popular vote again, it's becoming increasingly difficult for those two big parties on the centre-right to ignore just how many people are voting for Sinn Féin now.
Star has completely shaken up Romania's presidential race. Călin Georgescu, who once had just 5% in the polls, shot up to the top in the first round of voting with 22.9% of the vote. His TikTok campaign showed him as a horse-riding, martial arts fighting, anti-establishment figure, and he struck a chord with young voters frustrated by inflation, poverty, and traditional politics. Georgescu isn't shy about his controversial views. He wants radical transformation in Romania with a focus on small-scale organic agriculture, Christian values, and national sovereignty. He's called Nato in Romania a diplomatic shame. He opposes helping Ukraine in the war against Russia, and he praised historical figures linked to fascism. Back in 2018, he called Putin a true leader. Now, he's up against Helena Lasconi, a reformist ex-journalist who supports Ukraine. The election surprises Don Enver. Prime Minister Marcel Ciolacu, the favourite to win, came in third in the first round, forcing him to quit as leader of his party. For the first time in 30 years, his Social Democrat Party won't even make it to the runoff. But this all has repercussions beyond Romania. The country borders Ukraine and is a key NATO ally. Georgescu's rise and the support for him has raised big questions about Romania's future and its role in Europe. The next round of voting will take place on the 8th of December.
The 3-day ceasefire has been agreed, bringing an end to more than a year of fighting between Hezbollah and Israel. We're going to look at what exactly both sides have agreed to in the deal, why a ceasefire is happening now, and what impact this deal has on the war in Gaza. This is the Hezbollah-Israel ceasefire explained. Let's remind ourselves why a ceasefire is even needed. After the Hamas attack of October the 7th, Israel launched a full-scale military response. At the same time, Hezbollah launched rocket attacks from southern Lebanon into northern Israel, in solidarity with Hamas. And in turn, Israel fired back into Lebanon. By September 2024, more than 60,000 Israelis had been forced to leave their homes along the border, a fact used by Benjamin Netanyahu's government to then escalate the conflict. Israel detonated explosives hidden in thousands of pagers and walkie-talkies belonging to Hezbollah members, killing 39 and injuring more than 3,400 others, many of them civilians. They followed up with massive airstrikes against Hezbollah command centres, killing key generals, as well as their leader for the past 3 decades, Hassan Nasrallah. Then on October the 1st, Israel sent ground forces across the border into Lebanon for the first time since the 2006 war. On the same day, Hezbollah's most important ally, Iran, fired a barrage of hundreds of missiles at Israel. And since then, the Israeli airstrikes and Hezbollah rockets have been unrelenting. Now, after 13 months of fighting,
effective at 4 a.m. tomorrow local time, the fighting across the Lebanese-Israeli border will end.
So what's in the deal? The first stage will see the withdrawal of all Israeli forces from southern Lebanon within 60 days. At the same time, Hezbollah will pull back weapons and fighters north of the Litani River, around 20 miles north of the Israel-Lebanon border. The Lebanese army, along with the United Nations peacekeepers, will monitor the buffer zone, with the US leading a 5-country committee to make sure both sides stick to the deal. But the fighting's been going on for more than a year, so why has a ceasefire been agreed to now? First of all, it's important to note here that Israel was fighting Hezbollah, not Lebanon. The militia group has tens of thousands of members and many seats in Lebanon's parliament, but they aren't the ruling faction. And Israel has decimated Hezbollah's leadership and severely weakened its military strength. Basically, Hezbollah can't sustain the fight with Israel, and the ceasefire is the route's way out. Lebanon's government has been calling on both sides to stop the fighting from the start. The cost to the country has been immense. More than 3,000 have been killed according to the country's health ministry. A staggering 1.2 million people have been displaced, and swathes of the country now lies in ruins.
This is basically with such huge losses to the Lebanese people, the Lebanese economy.
That nations, the European Union, and most significantly the United States, demanding an end to the violence and humanitarian crisis. First Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gave 3 reasons for peace.
סיבה ראשונה, התמקדות באיום האיראני. סיבה שנייה, רענון כוחות וחידוש מלאים. ניתוק הזירה ובידוד החמאס.
The deal also allows Israel to claim some victory. Netanyahu says they've set Hezbollah back for decades, and that the 60,000 Israelis displaced by their rocket attacks can now go back to their homes, in Lebanon at least. But Israel is still fighting on another front, where the level of suffering is even greater. So what does this deal mean for Gaza? In his speech, Netanyahu said that the Lebanon ceasefire means Hamas is left on its own, and that Israel would increase its pressure on Hamas. President Biden, when he announced the deal, optimistically said it could be a catalyst for peace in Gaza and across the region. But the last pause in fighting in Gaza was more than a year ago, and it only lasted a few days. While Biden says the US will push for more peace talks, the president only has weeks left in the job, and he's about to be replaced by Donald Trump, and an administration arguably even more pro-Israel. Trump has said he wants a lasting peace in the Middle East, but is unlikely to put many constraints on Israel's war, if to bring an end to that devastating war, as well as some sort of long-lasting peace between Israel and Palestine. That will be a far harder agreement to reach.